22 years. That's how long George Harrison studied sitar under Ravi Shankar when he told Prince backstage at Madison Square Garden he was still student, not master. Revealing what Prince thought was instrument requiring weeks actually demanded lifetime of devotional study, where goal wasn't mastering technique, but surrendering ego to tradition predating Western music by millennium. When Prince claimed he could learn sitar in 1 hour because he'd learned piano in a week, George's gentle smile contained knowledge that Prince's upcoming public failure would teach more about music than any success ever could, which is why George invited Prince to try playing sitar on stage before 22,000 people, knowing 5 minutes of frustrated attempts producing screeching instead of melody would force Prince to experience that some instruments aren't conquered by talent, but entered through humility, making George's demonstration of morning raga that reduced arena to reverent silence not competition, but compassion, showing Prince what mastery looks like when pursued for decades rather than days. George Harrison's claim that 22 years studying under world's greatest sitar master still left him feeling like student wasn't false modesty, but accurate assessment of sitar's complexity, because Indian classical music operates under different paradigm than Western tradition, where songs have fixed melodies and performances follow notation, making raga systems requirement that musicians improvise within strict rules, governing which notes can play at what times based on season and emotion, equivalent to composing symphony while performing it, which is why sitar's 20 strings tuned differently and hand positions requiring fingers pressed sideways rather than down aren't just technical challenges but spiritual practices designed to humble performers. June 1987. Rolling Stone magazine. Extensive cover feature on Prince's musical virtuosity. Prince Rogers Nelson, 29 years old, at career peak. The interviewer asked about his instrumental abilities. Prince's response was confident, matter-of-fact. I play 27 instruments. If it has strings, keys, or can be hit with something, I can play it. That's not bragging, just fact. The interviewer pressed. Even sitar? That's supposed to be incredibly difficult. Prince hadn't hesitated. Haven't tried sitar specifically, but I could learn it. Same fundamental physics as any other stringed instrument. Tension, vibration, resonance. England, Friar Park. George Harrison's estate. George, 44 years old, sitting in his library reading the Rolling Stone interview someone had sent him, put down the magazine, spoke to his wife Olivia across the room. Prince doesn't understand what he's saying. Sitar isn't an instrument like guitar or piano. It's a spiritual practice, a devotional tradition. You can't just learn the physics. He picked up the phone, called Prince's management in Los Angeles. I see Prince is performing Madison Square Garden. July 15th. I need a backstage meeting with him before the show. This is important. George Harrison's decision to travel from England to New York, specifically to challenge Prince's claim about sitar, wasn't wounded pride, but teacher's instinct recognizing moment when student who doesn't know he's student needs lesson that only public failure can provide, because telling Prince verbally that sitar requires decades wouldn't penetrate ego built through career of proving conventional learning timelines were artificial barriers, making physical demonstration of sitar's impossible difficulty necessary education that George had received from Ravi Shankar decades earlier, when his own Western confidence met Eastern tradition's patient refusal to be conquered by talent alone. July 15th, 1987. Madison Square Garden, New York City. Backstage area, 6 p.m., 2 hours before showtime. George Harrison arrived carrying an ornate sitar case, traveling from England specifically for this meeting. Prince's assistant knocked. Prince, George Harrison is here to see you. Prince's voice immediate, excited. George Harrison? From the Beatles? Show him in immediately. George entered the dressing room. The two legends faced each other. Prince spoke first. "George! Purple Rain! I hope it does justice to what you created." George smiled warmly. "While my guitar gently weeps. That's a masterpiece. Timeless." Sat. Sitar case on table. "Read Rolling Stone. You said you could learn sitar. Haven't tried, but similar principle, right? Physics of sound." George smiled. "No, completely different. May I?" Open case. Ornate sitar. 2,000 years old, sacred. How many strings? Main, 7. Sympathetic, 13. Total, 20. Complex, but learnable. George's voice carried weight of experience. "I've been playing sitar since 1965. That's 22 years. Under Ravi Shankar, the greatest living sitar master, maybe the greatest who ever lived. He's taught me personally, patiently, for over 2 decades." He paused, wanting Prince to understand this next part. "And I still consider myself a student, not a master, not even close. Maybe never will be. 22 years and still student. Sitar isn't just notes, it's soul. Raga system requires understanding mood, time, season, spiritual meaning, philosophical, devotional. Sitar masters you, teaches patience, humility." Prince: "I'm fast learner. 1 hour. Could play something. 1 hour? Sitting position alone takes weeks. Learned instruments in days. Can't be that different." George studied him. "Okay, tonight, your concert. Try sitar on stage. 22,000 watching. If you play anything recognizable, I'll admit fastest learner. But if you can't, acknowledge some things require time." Prince: "Deal." George: "It's not opportunity, it's lesson." Prince's willingness to attempt sitar publicly, despite George's warnings, revealed confidence that came from lifetime of proving traditional learning timelines wrong, not understanding that Indian classical tradition's devotional approach to music operated under completely different rules than Western self-taught methodology, where understanding mechanics leads to mastery, making upcoming public failure necessary, bridge between worldviews that couldn't be crossed through conversation alone, because words explaining impossibility sound like gatekeeping to someone who's conquered every previous impossibility through raw determination. 8 p.m. The lights cut. Prince's concert began normally, following the set list as planned. Sign o' the Times opened with its dystopian funk. Raspberry Beret had the crowd singing every word. Kiss turned the arena into dance party. 22,000 people completely ecstatic, lost in Prince's mastery, watching him control every element of performance like conductor leading orchestra. 9 p.m. After Purple Rain. "Ladies and gentlemen, special guest, George Harrison from the Beatles." $22,000. Eruption. George walking on stage, carrying sitar. Crowd, louder. Prince: "George brought instrument I've never played. Sitar. He says takes decades to master. I said I could learn in hour. So tonight, try to play it. Right now. Let's see." George opened the case, lifted out the sitar carefully, handed it to Prince. "First, sit, cross-legged on the floor. That's the traditional position for playing sitar." Prince looked at the stage floor. He'd never sat during performance in his entire career, but he committed. Sat down cross-legged, rare posture for performer who built career on constant movement, took the sitar from George, immediately felt the weight, heavier than guitar, awkward shape, bulbous gourd body, 20-plus strings, creating visual complexity that made guitar look simple. Crowd, silent. "Will Prince master this too?" George: "Hold neck with left hand, fingers press sideways, not down like guitar. Right hand, 3 fingers pluck." Moment when Prince sat cross-legged on stage floor, holding sitar, created unprecedented vulnerability for performer who'd built career on projecting supernatural control, because sitting rather than standing meant surrendering physical dominance that height and movement provided while attempting unfamiliar instrument in uncomfortable position created perfect conditions for failure that would be undeniable to 22,000 witnesses who'd never seen. Prince look uncertain before, making George's gentle instructions about sideways finger. Pressure already revealing that sitar operated under fundamentally different mechanics than guitar, despite both having strings. Prince attempting. Left hand, awkward. Fingers stiff. Right hand, random strings. Minute 1 to 2, left hand awkward. Right hand random plucking. Sound, terrible, discordant. 22,000. Gasps. Prince sounds bad. Minute 3, trying press sideways. Can't coordinate. Sound, screeching, painful. 22,000. Uncomfortable. First time seeing struggle. Minute 4, back hurting. Position unfamiliar. Frustration visible. Jaw clenched. Can't find clean note. George gentle corrections, but Prince can't translate. Minute 5, one final attempt. Full concentration. Sound slightly better, but still terrible. Finally stopped. Silence. Standing. Handing sitar back. Defeated. I can't play this. 22,000. Shock. First time public defeat admission. Some applauded, respectful, others silent. Processing. Prince at microphone. 22,000 just watched me fail. That's new. George said, devotion required. I thought talent enough. I was wrong. George stepping forward, hand on shoulder. You didn't fail. You did something braver. You tried, knowing you might not succeed. Most practice privately. Show only success. You showed struggle, humanity. That's real artistry. To Prince. I'll teach you properly. Over time, Prince. I want to learn. As student, Prince's 5-word admission, I can't play this, represented seismic shift in performer who'd built entire career on supernatural competence because public acknowledgement of limitation from artist who'd convinced millions he could do anything? Shattered illusion that separated him from mere mortals while simultaneously making him more human than any successful performance ever could, teaching 22,000 witnesses that real strength comes not from hiding failures but from admitting them when truth becomes undeniable, which is why crowds' mixed reaction of applause and shocked silence revealed they were processing not just musical failure, but philosophical transformation of icon who'd just proven vulnerability was strength rather than weakness. George sitting cross-legged, sitar in lap, proper position. To crowd. Sitar is ancient, sacred. I'm going to play morning raga called Raga Bhairav. It's prayer. Closed eyes. Began playing. Minutes 02, the opening, alap. Slow, meditative notes, each note bending. Signature sitar sound. Sliding between pitches, first note held 10 seconds. Single pitch, then bent upward. Slow, intentional. Sympathetic strings resonating, creating drone. Ethereal, like temple bells. George's fingers pressing sideways on frets, sliding, creating microtones between Western notes. 22,000, mesmerized, nobody moving, total silence. Audience members closing eyes, swaying gently. Rock concert transformed into meditation. Prince watching from side stage, understanding now. This isn't performance, this is prayer. Minutes 2 to 5. Development. George adding rhythm, tabla-like pattern, on sitar, right hand faster plucking, creating percussive pulse, left hand sliding, creating melody over rhythm. Notes. Becoming faster, still controlled, each phrase answering previous phrase. Indian classical scale, microtones, quarter tones, notes between the notes. Crowd, transported, spiritual. Some fans crying, not from sadness, from beauty. George's face, peaceful, lost in music. 22 years visible in every movement. Minutes 5-8. Climax, Jala. George playing fast, fingers flying, complex patterns, but not showing off. Devotional, eyes closed, face peaceful, speed increasing, tension decreasing, paradox of mastery. Final phrase, long sustained note, bending, vibrating, fading naturally, like sunrise dissolving into day. Raga complete, silence, 5 seconds. Then, eruption, 22,000, standing ovation, 15 minutes, longest of night. Not just for skill, for soul, people hugging strangers. Transformed by what they witnessed. George Harrison's 8-minute raga demonstration that reduced rock concert crowd to reverent silence proved that sitar mastery wasn't about technical difficulty, but spiritual devotion, because what made performance transcendent wasn't speed of fingers or complexity of patterns, but George's eyes-closed, peaceful expression revealing he wasn't performing for audience, but channeling 2,000-year-old tradition through himself as vessel, teaching 22,000 witnesses that real mastery looks like effortless surrender to something greater than performer, which is what Prince's 5 minutes of frustrated screeching had failed to achieve because he'd approached sitar as tool to be conquered rather than teacher to be honored. George Harrison studied sitar for 22 years and still called himself student. Prince tried for 5 minutes and failed publicly. When have you assumed quick learning could replace long devotion? Share moment when you discovered some skills can't be rushed. What tradition or practice have you approached with humility instead of confidence? How did that change your relationship with mastery? Prince center stage. Microphone. 22,000 just heard. Mastery. Not musician. Master. Difference is profound. I play 27 instruments, but George showed mastery isn't quantity, it's depth. Learned guitar in weeks. George studied sitar 22 years, under Ravi Shankar. Still calls himself student. That's humility I lack. Thought fast learning meant mastering everything. Sitar taught me some things can't be rushed. Raga system, 2,000 years old. I thought 1 hour enough. That was arrogance. You watched me fail, publicly. New experience. Most artists show only polish. You saw struggle. Grateful for this lesson, not just about sitar, about respecting mastery, accepting student role. George walking to Prince. Prince did something braver than any success. He tried, knowing he might fail. Most protect mystique, show only perfection. Prince showed humanity. That's strength, hand on shoulder. Real artistry is knowing what you can't do, being willing to learn. I'll teach you, months and years, if you're willing to be student. Prince, I'm willing. Tonight stripped my ego. Want to learn properly. As student, that's freeing to audience. Thank you for witnessing. Heroes have limitations. Admitting them is growth. Prince's public acknowledgement that mastery requires depth, not quantity, represented philosophical transformation that would reshape his entire approach to music, because admitting that 22 years studying one instrument creates more meaningful artistry than quickly learning. 27 instruments challenged ego built on being fastest learner who could master anything through raw talent. Teaching lesson that George's patient devotion to single tradition produced transcendent performance, while Prince's confident attempt to conquer sitar in minutes produced only embarrassing noise, proving that some forms of mastery can't be achieved through Western efficiency, but require Eastern patience that treats learning as spiritual practice rather than technical achievement. George. Okay, one lesson, right now, for 22,000 witnesses. Sat again with sitar. Prince, sit. I'll teach you one note. Just one. Properly. Prince sat. Eager. Humbled. George positioning Prince's hands. Left hand. Press this string. Middle of fret. Not too hard. Not too soft. Right hand. Pluck with middle finger. Feel the string. Now, slide finger. Don't lift. Keep pressure consistent. Slide. Prince following. Presses string. Too hard. Plucks. Awkward. First attempt. Screeching. Too much pressure. String buzzing. George gentle. Lighter. Like holding butterfly. Too tight, you crush it. Too loose, it flies away. Second attempt. Better. Note bending. Wavering. Uncertain. George. Breathe. The note breathes with you. Third attempt. Beautiful, one clean bending note, sustained, resonant, pure, sympathetic strings responding, creating halo of sound. 22,000, applause, witnessing transformation. George smiling. Perfect. That one note took 5 minutes. Full raga? 22 years. But you played one note. That start, Prince. 5 minutes for one note, and I thought sitar was just another string instrument. Now you understand. Sitar doesn't measure time like Western music. One note can contain eternity. Collaboration. 5 minutes. George. Let's make music. Your way plus my way. George. Sitar. Simple, repetitive raga phrase. Creating trance. Prince. Guitar. Waiting. Listening. Finding space. Then joining with Western rock melody. Fitting over raga. Complementing. 2 traditions, 2 instruments, 1 sound. Fusion. East meets West. Devotion meets talent. 22,000. Roar. This history. Beatles plus Prince. Sitar plus guitar. Song ended naturally. Fading like sunrise. George plus Prince embrace. Long hug. Teacher and student. George's decision to teach Prince single note rather than complex raga revealed pedagogy emphasizing patience over speed, because making Prince struggle through 3 attempts just to produce one beautiful sound taught more about sitar's devotional nature than allowing him to fake competence through Western shortcuts, proving that real teaching requires student to experience difficulty viscerally rather than intellectually understanding it, which is why George's subsequent offer to provide ongoing lessons at Friar Park represented recognition that Prince had learned most important lesson not about sitar technique, but about accepting role of perpetual student that Indian classical tradition requires from everyone, regardless of previous achievements. Backstage, 11:30 p.m. Hardest thing I've done on stage, ever. Harder than splits? Emotionally? Yes. Never admitted I can't do something publicly. Sitar humbled me. Needed that. Sitar designed to teach humility. Ravi Shankar told me, patience, devotion, respect. Can you teach me, long-term? If you're willing to be student. Ready. Come England. Friar Park. Next month. No cameras. August 1987. Prince visits. 2 weeks basics. 1988. I'm still terrible at sitar, but allowed to be terrible. That's freeing. 1991. Get Off includes sitar sample. Credits, George. 2001. George dies. Prince. Mastery isn't speed, it's depth. 2016. Prince dies. Donnie Harrison. Dad taught Prince humility. Prince taught Dad vulnerability. Ravi Shankar, 76. Audience. Prince tried, sounded terrible, but willingness to fail publicly? True artist. 22 years of devotion creates mastery that 5 minutes of confidence can't touch. George Harrison was still student. Prince admitted he couldn't play sitar. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Share this with someone who needs reminder that depth matters more than speed. Next time you approach new skill, ask, am I trying to conquer this or honor it? True masters know difference. You don't. Master sitar. Sitar masters you. It teaches humility. George Harrison, 1987.